Hello, everyone, and welcome back to On the Curbs IndyCar. I'm your host, Nate Woods, and I'm joined once again by my co-host, Mr. Thiemo Albers-Daly. Thiemo, how we doing?
Said yesterday just about recovered from that race in Milwaukee, and I'm happy to say my heart rate is back down to normal resting kind of pace at this point in time because that was an intense last 30 laps, if nothing else. The rest of the race, I was saying just before we hit record, it wasn't bad by any stretch of imagination, but a little bit like Portland, you were glad you were there for the end because it was a sprint to the finish that kept you on the edge of the seat. And I almost messaged you. I messaged a friend of mine watching it. You better have seen what I just saw there. Otherwise, I don't want to spoil it, but you better have seen
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. It was definitely a good final 30 laps, I would say. Some of the best racing that we've seen this season, and we had to wait all season for it.
Worth the wait in some regards. Second of all, glad that at least it did come eventually rather than us having to wait until next year to find it. And
Yeah,
I was humbled very quickly because I saw Rasmussen when he was starting on his charge towards the front, and he'd gotten past McLaughlin, I think, and now Perot was next up on the road, and I thought there is enough time, but it's Perot and nothing against Rasmussen, but I don't see it happening. And then about 2 seconds later, it's
yeah,
not quite that quickly. He just goes and does what he does, which we'll talk about. And I just thought, well, I was wrong.
yeah,
Very definitely wrong. But that did not
yeah.
take long for me to be immediately disproven. And I was showing the IndyCar, whoever did the YouTube, their YouTube channel, they're doing a great job. Within an hour after the race being done, you had short highlights, extended highlights, and Christian Rasmussen's on board for the last 30 laps,
Yeah.
all there. And I sent Rasmussen's to a friend of mine who keeps in touch with IndyCar and went kind of without saying anything, just going, I think you'll enjoy this. So we're more Formula One orientated. And he goes, that's what we were promised with this set of regulations in Formula One. Why are we not getting this? This is the best thing we've had in years. Like, this is why we need to pay more attention to IndyCar. It's the therapy we need.
Yeah. Well, IndyCar has always offered something that F1 has never been able to do, and that's, you know, just flat out nasty speed on an oval. Not saying
Yeah,
that Milwaukee is a particularly fast track, but I think it's more technically demanding than what a lot of outsiders looking in might give it credit for on face value because if they're like, oh, it's just an oval. It's got two turns at one end of the track and two turns at the other end of the track. They're all left hand. But because it's a graduated grading on that track, the inside line is not the preferred line at all. And that obviously, uh, Nolan Siegel found out about that. What
pretty darn
we
quickly.
he didn't even make it out of turn four before he found out that the low line was not the way to run.
And I think as well, something I frequently say about F1, particularly these last few years, is I just want to see foot to the floor racing. Like, I understand the importance of time management. I mean, you get that in all forms of motorsport, but more times than not, I want to see drivers just going for it and going, let's have a thing of let's not have tire strategy be as much of a thing as it should be. Let's just use all the rubber on these things and toss them aside when they're dead and
Yeah,
get a fresh set and go running again. And Christian Rasmussen will obviously talk about him more in a little bit, but he's this driver where I don't think he knows. Well, he probably knows, but he just doesn't utilize anything other than I'm going to drive quickly. So time management gone, skill management gone, everything at the moment. I'm just going to drive as quickly as I can to and as aggressively as I can. And you have the good parts of that, which we saw obviously this weekend. You see the bad parts of that with some of the subpar results from the season. And then you see the ugly side of that with, say, Conor Daly and Poland. Um, but regardless of where you kind of put him in on the grid in terms of the quality of the driver, and if you like him all over, you can't deny he's very exciting to watch. You don't quite know what's going to happen next, and you can't count him
yeah,
out. And you saw how hard Alex Palou was fighting him. when he didn't have to, but
Yeah.
he's not just having a couple goes and then pulling back. He's like, either I'm getting past you or we're both going out here. And obviously, I don't want you to both go out, but I like the whole thing of I'm going to race you as hard as possible because that's what I'm here to do. Because, oh, what's that? Yes, I'm a racing driver and we need more racing drivers. I need to remember that they are racing drivers, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I do owe an apology to Christian Rasmussen. I feel like after my comments from last episode where, I think I mentioned random drug testing was needed. Some of that
I was
erratic
about to ask, what
driving.
did you say? And then yeah,
Yeah,
how are you
yeah,
still going to
erratic
forget?
driving that he had in Portland. I tell you, that was a one-man highlight reel. I would love to see just a cut of every time they showed his onboard camera throughout the entire race. It was like
Oh,
every time they showed his onboard, I mean, he might as well have been driving a Grand Prix because as many times as he saw that wheel to the right to try to save it, I mean, like every time they cut to it, it's like he's sitting there doing, sawing the wheel back and forth, trying to keep the wheels underneath of him. It was amazing to watch.
I, I think if you'd have had a camera on you, a camera on me, and a camera on the commentators, every time you switched it on board and he's
Yeah.
just squirreling with his car, everyone in unison go, oh, oh.
Yeah. Yep.
And
Girlfriend and I were
every
sitting on the
time you're
couch.
just amazed that he saved
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Girlfriend and I were sitting on the couch and she would, I'm typing away show notes watching the race and uh she's sitting next to me doing, something else and she's just kind of passively watching the race and like every 5 minutes it's like, oh, oh, and she's like, why are you and the commentators getting so excited? I'm like, because this is great
Check
save
out
after
here.
great
Check out
save.
what happens when it goes to him a second and go.
Yeah.
Look how quick you've got to be with the reactions for that, or to not have that go incredibly messy.
Although she kind of tuned out after the first 100 laps. She's a willpower fan.
Unfortunate on that front, but I can happily agree with her in terms of why you should be a willpower fan. That's a great place to start. I just wouldn't the weekend for that to be a good thing.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, great qualifying, bad race.
yeah, yeah. And just to touch on a few things from the race, we've already mentioned a lot of the big incidents, but what about that save that Graham Rahal had right at
Yeah,
the beginning of the
I'm
race?
glad you mentioned that. I was writing up a piece on the weekend, and I always do kind of like a key takeaways from the IndyCar weekend, and I started off the paragraph and Grey Mail going, why are we talking about a driver that finished in 24th? I'll tell you why, because that's actually not too bad when you think about what that could have been. Uh, one of the definitely the save of the race, possibly a save of the season, at
Right.
least a contender for it. And it goes back to what you were saying earlier, right? You look at an oval from the outside, having never maybe watched too much football, you're just used to NASCAR and all the stereotypes that go with that. And you go,
Yeah.
wow, how hard can it be? You go, I mean, Rasmussen's on board for starters. Have a look at that. Then also look at what Graham Rahal was managing to do here. And it's such a shame that he wasn't able to then reascend through the field because he was having a pretty good weekend up to that point. But I think it shows that you had this with Rasmussen, you had this with Powell, obviously. You had it with him. Three very different drivers, three very different levels of experience within each of them. But it can catch you all out. And it may look simple, but it's anything but. And you need to have your wits about you. And I think it's an interesting way to, for lack of a better phrase, separate the men from the boys. You look at what Graham Rahal was able to do with that car. You look what Nolan Siegel was able to do.
Yeah.
And you go, we do give Rahal a lot of shtick at times for different reasons,
Hmm.
but he hasn't not earned his place on the grid, and saves like that kind of
Yeah.
remind you that he does know what
Remind you.
he's doing, even if he's not where we would like him to be.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, well said. Absolutely. I think that was probably, I think you're right. Definitely the save of the race, although Christian Rasmussen had a whole bunch of them. Uh,
I
it
feel like
felt
half of
like,
his
but
were self-inflicted.
yeah, that's true. But yeah, good candidate for save of the season for sure. But yeah, it felt like once we got past that first round of pit stops, it felt like that this was going to be a another non-race. You had Alex Palou out in front, and the one driver that seemed like had was capable of matching him in that first stint of the race was David Malukas, and had an issue on pit road that felt like ended his day.
Very much so. And again, another really solid weekend. And in terms of the narrative of the season, and especially straight out to Portland, you've got to love the fact that he was up there contending for pole position
Mhm.
on the Saturday.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Alex Flow comes and ruins that as kind of this strike back against Will Power going, yeah, you might have won in Portland and I was nowhere in comparison, but I'm still here, buddy, and I'm still gunning for
Mm.
your seat. And then again, the poetry almost of Power's incident happening at the same time, practically as Malukas's pit stop incident, and you go, someone both loves and hates these two drivers up in the racing gods, kind of
Yeah.
arena, and it's just absolutely messing with everyone right now. And you have to feel for Lucas in the same way that I feel for Daly a bit as well, because he's an oval master in a lot of ways,
Mm.
but every time we've gone to one this year, it's just not quite worked out. And Lucas, he gets oh so close to getting these excellent results. But like many other drivers we see, it's the qualifying where they're good, but the race on Sunday, you go up against someone like Thiemo or earlier in the season Kirkwood, and you're done. And
Yeah.
it's just unfortunate. I don't know if it's an experience thing or if it's just sheer bad luck. In this case, I mean, you look at Colin Herta with any of his pit stops for the first two-thirds of the season, practically. Um, but yeah, very unfortunate for Malukas there. And I think the key thing for him is that it wasn't anything he did wrong. It was just the team in this instance. And
Mm.
you go back to, was it Scotty Mack in Detroit? I want to say, who was trying not to blame like the team for something, and then
Yep.
immediately had the replay. Like, oh no, it was very much the
It,
team. Like in
it
this
very
case,
much the tip. Yeah.
maybe don't like go too hard on them, but there's a very clear distinction between if this was your fault or not. So don't worry
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah. That was that stop when watching the replays, and I watched the replay of that stop a half dozen times probably, and it was not the over the wall team that messed that up. It was the behind the wall team that messed that up. And uh, I don't know who that kid was that they've got watching the wheel guns on the backside of the wall, but I don't, he was having a bad day, or he was looking at something else, or he was thinking about a corn dog at the concession stand, but he was not doing his job. That when that tire gun jammed or failed to work to get that tire back on, he should have been pulling that line back across the wall and chucking a new gun out there to the tire changer. And I mean, the tire changer, I don't know whether he noticed the kid wasn't paying attention, and he got up and ran back across the pit
Mm.
stall, dropped the gun, and picked up the new one to carry out there. And just like that shouldn't be happening. I mean, that obviously that those are the types of moves that on pit road that lose drivers races. And this could have been a much different race. Not saying, if David Malukas would have had a great stop and been out in front, he would have been in the same position that Alex Palou was in at, 16 laps to go, getting passed by a driver that had fresh rubber. So I can't fault the team too much there. I mean, amateur mistake, I think, from a pit crew that probably needs some more experience, but you know, could have been a
It's
lot different
taking
race.
away the possibility of a win and replacing it with
Right.
the certainty of not winning.
Right. Exactly. He
One
did
thing that the
it.
team did do really well, though, I don't know if you saw this on the pre-race broadcast, was obviously last time we were in the States, um, was when Fucci got his podium, I think, in Road America,
Right.
and pulled off the side of the track, got a beer thrown to him by a fan from the stands.
Yep.
The team found the fan, brought
Yes.
him behind the scenes and gifted him a case of beer, which he's saying he's going to get signed by Frucci and keep in his bar that he owns. And it's kind of like a keepsake. And I thought I like those kind of stories when that happens because it's just some random dude who threw a guy a beer and now he's getting his 15 minutes of fame, and
Yeah.
that's gonna be the story that you know. Anytime someone new comes into the bar, it's going to be the story he tells them.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Well, and I did, speaking of pre-race items. I saw where there was a couple that got engaged on pit road.
I thought you were going to make a jab at Rasmussen there because of Jack Harvey and Ed Carpenter's interview with him earlier on, but it's a different couple.
Yeah, different couple. Yeah, it was Rossi that was signing a hero card for the gal and wrote something like "Please say yes," and hands it to her, and she looks over and her now fiance is down on one knee in pit road.
That's a pretty classy move and way of doing that.
That's
Get
pretty
Alexander
cool.
Rossi in on the action.
Yeah. So that was pretty cool. And that final caution flag we had for a different type of moisture on track on a
So
sunny
rain in
day and it
Milwaukee.
just starts raining. I don't know if you have that kind of weather over there, but
Not
that
that,
is
not that bloody brief.
that's something we contend with here in the Midwest. It could be a perfectly nice day, and all of a sudden you're like, what is this falling from the sky? Am I getting pooped on by a bird? What is this? And you look up and it's raining on a sunny day.
I say, it's had that sometimes. I don't think for ever quite so short a period of time as we had in this instance, because that was very much blink and you miss it. And
Yeah,
you can understand why they threw the caution out, but if they'd known that that wasn't going to be any more than what it was, I'd have been interested to see if they would have thrown the caution there and how
yeah,
different a race we might have had.
yeah, yeah. Because that final caution on lap 208, that was essentially the deciding event for uh, Rasmussen ended up getting the victory. You had
Hmm.
pretty much all of the lead pack. Everybody other than the top three came in to take tires on that final caution.
It
And
was very interesting to see who stayed out, who decided we're just going to go for it, and who really went for it when we got going again. I was after saw with Rasmussen, but it was what the Arrow McLarens they stayed out, I think, and maybe not the Andretti's. There was someone else I can't think who now,
uh,
but there were a
let's
couple of the
see.
people, maybe Rossi,
Rossi
um,
stayed out, Armstrong stayed out, Pillow and McLaughlin.
hmm, which again you'd
Looking through the
be
list.
thinking the chances are this should be fine, and you look at where Pillow and McLaughlin finished, for example, you go, yeah, that's for Rossi too as well. It didn't give them a massive disadvantage, but the advantage that it gave someone like Rasmussen was quite a bit, and it was a bit like for me a very worthy but better sequel to what was it, Malukas in Iowa,
Yeah.
where in this instance he did have enough laps to make it work and then some, whereas Malukas just ran out of laps to get
Mhm.
too much further into the top 10, I think, or he was just outside of it, and you go, you've been watching back some of the races from the season and going, if this happens, we'll do this. If we do this, we'll do that. And then in this instance, it worked beautifully for him, and he just what a charge he went on. It was some of the best. Again, some of the best racing I think I've seen of the year. I think across any category, never mind just IndyCar.
Yeah. Yeah, that like I mentioned before, that last 30 laps, boy, that was fun.
Especially with just the lack of a need for him to go about it in some of the ways that he went about it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you'd think that the Pelot wasn't the guy leading the race with how he was then going after the lap or going after the cars that were going to be a lap down.
Mhm.
And the way this he was going past them, you going, there's the center line of you don't go for a gap that doesn't exist or what have you, then you're no longer a racing driver. He's going for gaps that really don't exist.
Yeah.
Those gaps should not exist, and he's
Should
somehow
not have
making
been.
them work.
Yeah. And
And put a lot of respect for going, I don't know how you got through me there, but you know what? Fair enough. You fair play. You managed to make that work. So I'm not gonna ram you up into the wall. I'm not that kind of a driver, but I don't know how you squeezed through that gap because you shouldn't have been able to actually get anything in there in the first place.
yeah. Well, and I think another testament for Rasmussen's ability to drive it comes from the fact that when they restarted, he was what, eighth or ninth,
Mm,
and made his way through the field in those 30 laps. Well, in 14 laps, he made his way up and passed Pillow. No other driver did that. All those other drivers that took on tires on that last pit stop. Rossi finished fourth. He couldn't get up to Scott McLaughlin to make a pass there, or he did make it up to him and couldn't get it done. And then his tires were worn at that point. Pato O'Ward, same thing. Christian Lundgaard. Those are all drivers that pitted on that last stop, and they weren't making their way through the field like Rasmussen did. And you know the the lap 235, somewhere in there, 15, 16 laps from the end. And Rasmussen had spent 2 laps trying to get around Pelot. And Pelot, he raced him. I mean, this is a guy that
Yeah.
already has the championship sealed up and doesn't have to
Well,
get
he,
a
he,
race
he
win,
wanted the records,
but
but
he
he was
he
being
wanted it.
denied by, of all people, Christian Rasmussen,
Not
thinking at
not
the start of the weekend that wasn't going to happen of all the
yeah,
drivers.
not the one that I would have pegged to get their first win. But
But I mean, such a satisfying way to do it. And you think about other first race wins in IndyCar in other series, and you go, some of the time it's right place, right time. You've taken advantage of the chaos, and nothing wrong with that. But you still got to be there. You still got to keep it together when more experienced drivers maybe crash out or whatever. And then you have something like this, and you go, that wasn't lucking into something, that wasn't taking advantage of an opportunity, that wasn't a safety car benefiting you. That was, as you saw, it was kind of, he was not the only driver that had the possibility to advance after those last stops. And yeah, the rain helped, but it wasn't a guarantee that he would still be able to do anything with that, as all the other drivers essentially proved. And you go, that's an even better way to claim your first win because you did it yourself. It
yeah,
wasn't, you were given the opportunity, yeah, but the opportunity was much less of a guarantee than other ones have been before. It's not the safety car's coming in, you've got 5 laps left, you've just got to stay in front because you've been able to pit and get out ahead.
right.
You've got to go and get Scott McLaughlin. You've got to go get Alex below. Never mind the other cars behind McLaughlin beforehand.
Yeah,
And then just because you can, and for some reason you want us all to have heart attacks, you're going to go after the next 3 cars up on the
yeah.
grid
I
and
yeah,
just go and lap them in ways that really was squeaky bum time in terms of viewing. I don't know how he didn't need a new race suit after that. I definitely did.
yeah, that's a good point. Not only did he have to pass Alex Palou for the lead, but he had to pass Scott McLaughlin. He had to pass Joseph Newgarden. He had to pass his teammate Alexander Rossi to make that happen. And yeah, I mean, great win. I think it was probably one that we kind of thought was coming at some point. I did not have it pegged for it happening this season, but
Didn't you say at the end of the last episode that we'd probably get a new race winner?
I did, but I,
I don't
I
think Rasmussen was on the list for it, though.
Rasmussen
He
was
left.
not who I would have pegged for that. I would have been definitely
I think
more
you would go
towards
more for Daly or Malukas
Daly
or
or
someone
or
like this.
Malukas.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
You
So
got
this
one
was
more
the
shot.
yeah, that's right. This was the first time winner that we had in 39 races since Christian Lundgaard in Toronto in 2023.
Yeah, which I I did watch those. That was my first season properly following it, I think, and that was a good first win as well. I thought that was
Mhm.
that was a nice
Yes.
one, but I think I prefer this one just on that one.
Yeah.
But it shows, I think, that seems like a long time, but when you put into the fact that you have only 17 races in an IndyCar season, it's not that big a gap really. And when you look at how many wins Pelot's had in that time as well, I'm just trying to anyone trying to get a look in where they can,
Yeah.
you go, okay, fair play. And in a year where he's maybe the fifth different driver now, the sixth different driver to win this season.
One,
But
two,
that's only
three,
coming just at the
four,
end.
five, six. Yeah. Sixth driver to win this year. Yep.
Just comes in at the end, and he has to fight for it. It's yeah, it's
Mhm.
it's a pretty good victory. And
Yeah.
if we do, well, we'll definitely do a season review. If we have a category of what was the best win of the year, we're gonna be spoiled for choice there here. 'Cause Will Powers was excellent in Portland. You had a
Mhm.
couple of really good ones from Polo, such as Indy 500. Dixon pulling it out of nowhere, and now Chris Resman into the conversation, going, "How about this? Damn,
So this was also the first win for Ed Carpenter Racing since the Indy GP in May of 2021.
I was not around for that."
I was at that race, so I was
Well,
definitely
there
around
we go.
for
Ah,
it.
maybe there's a neat thing here. Favorite track from Milwaukee. He was at the last one. We got to
Yeah.
we got to test this theory out a bit more next year.
So let's jump into some team analysis. Team Penske. Um, Scott McLaughlin, it was kind of a non-performer, it felt like, even though he ran up front all day and managed to pull out a podium.
Yeah, I, I will call him George Russell for the way he was just anonymous the entire weekend, but did what he had to do, and
Yeah,
it was nice to see it actually just go to plan. I was quite happy not to see that much of him because, as we know, Team Benton's not had a brilliant season. So for him to just quietly get on with things and nothing to go wrong is a victory. And I think as frustrating as it would have been to not get the win, I think P3 will still have felt really, really good. And his first podium since Alabama earlier in the season,
yeah,
and his best result since Iowa, the first race, which feels like a million years ago already. Um, as for Newgarden, yeah, again, closer to where we were expecting or him to be for the entire season, but still felt like there was something lacking there. And power. Again, a little bit like I was saying with regards to Rahal and Siegel and Malukas, even with the pit stop, I think his crash was just something that could have happened to anyone. And it's unfortunate that it just happened to
yeah,
be him that it happened to this time out. I don't think that's necessarily anything critical of him as a driver or his capabilities. It's just sometimes shit happens. And
yeah.
unfortunately, it comes in this race with
In
these
this race,
circumstances,
yeah.
with
Eh,
Malukas being where he was.
yeah, and yeah, that's the thing is, this is a guy that is essentially interviewing to keep his ride for next year with this team, and to have that happen, so unfortunate for him. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it was a racing incident. It's something that we saw people up near that the exit of turn two wall all day, and he
I'm
was the
pretty sure
one that,
Rasmussen brushed it at one point as well,
yeah, yeah, I think so.
at least.
Yeah, yeah. Errol McLaren. Um, uh, you,
That's about right, I think.
yeah, I just, you know, Christian Lundgaard had a great day. Um,
Yeah, he was the silver lining, I think, for the team because he had a terrible qualifying and then made it all the way up to P6
yeah,
and not too anonymous, but a little bit anonymous. It felt like you saw him, but you didn't see that much of him.
yeah,
And that was a good recovery drive, I think. Whereas Siegel, I'll let you deal with him in a minute because I think I'm just going to agree with you. But Award is a curious one because he's secured second in the championship now, which I always find amusing when they go, "Oh, he's vice champion." I'm like, that's not a thing. Stop
yeah,
it. Um, he didn't beat Pillow, is what you're trying to say there politely,
yeah.
and finished a couple spots down from where he started. And I don't know if I'm happy with him or not. I don't know. Just I, Cold and Hurter I've kind of accepted from not just me, but from what I've seen as this driver with this massive reputation, and I've not really seen it materialize in Pato. I see glimpses of it, but then it's just not as often as I think I'm going to warrant the reputation that he has, and I still feel like maybe he did all of his good stuff before I joined IndyCar.
Uh,
Or am I too harsh?
he might be a little harsh. I think I think Pato's a better driver than Colton, but
I'm not to agree with you on that one, but in terms of the expectations that
well,
everyone has for them, I feel like neither are delivering.
I think this might be an unfair season to try to gauge ability, with Pillow just running away with everything. It felt like, um,
I would counter
you're
that with maybe it shows the kind of driver that Pato is that he's not able to stop him from running away with it.
that's true.
Should be able to
Very
put up
true.
more of a fight for it.
But also you got to understand, Pat O'Ward was, uh, he wasn't in the position he is in second place in the standings until the second half of the season. He clawed his way to that second place in the championship. It
Which
wasn't,
I think is maybe you making my case for me in a few ways there, but I get the point you're going for.
yeah. Um, he was a driver during the race that, ran up towards the front, like Scott McLaughlin. He ran up front or near the front all race long, but you really didn't hear anything. It was felt like his fifth place finish might as well have been a 15th place finish because we just didn't hear anything from him all race.
Yeah, and I think that's where the problem is. I don't mind if he finishes fifth necessarily, but I do mind that you don't see any, and maybe there was, but we just didn't see it. We didn't see any attempt at getting further up the field. Like we say, he started third and finished fifth. He went backwards. So the fact that Rasmussen, I mean, I may have blinked and missed it when he got past Pato. We don't know. We don't saw that. It's just
Yeah.
he was in another dimension at that point. But the fact that that happened so easily just again raised some questions. And I don't know if I'm, like I said, I don't know if I'm happy with him or not. But I want to look into that more in the off season and see what the deal is there. And I think Thermal Club may be key there in terms of the the cover image for Pato Award for 2025.
Andretti Global is another uh, kind of meh weekend. I wanted more from Kirkwood. You know, Made it into the Fast Six in
We've been wanting more
qualifying.
from Kirkwood for a while.
We've been wanting more from him since May at this point, I feel
Yeah,
like.
it feels like yeah. It's so interesting. I think that this season, and we'll definitely talk about this more in the off season, but you look at these three teams that we're talking about that we always talk about first, because they're meant to be the heavy hitters.
Yep.
And every weekend it feels like at least for two of them, if not all three, we're there going, hmm, I'm not sure what to do with these people. And it just feels so bizarre because you're used to doing that maybe for one team if they're having an uncharacteristic off season. Again, I know I've got a quota of F1 references to get in, but you look at McLaren a few years ago and you go, yeah, that's the big team that's absolutely messing things up big time. You go to Ferrari half the time and you go, yeah, that makes it. But at least, the other one will be there. Red Bull will be still there and Ferrari then will still be up there the rest of the time and McLaren then come back into it because Red Bull's down and this sort of thing. But then this year, you've kind of taken all three of them and gone, eh? And you've
Yeah.
got this fourth team of Chip Ganassi, who I don't know what the F1 comparison will be there, but just kind of coming in and doing this brilliant job. And it's all the smaller teams coming in and taking the big chunks out of it. And we see that in some of the fun podiums we've had and some of the fun pole positions that we've had. And like I say, you're looking at Herta, spins in qualifying, starts 24th, finishes 11th, and somehow that's the driver we're happiest with.
Right.
Or,
Exactly.
or
Yeah.
you're looking at Kirkwood qualifying in 6th and finishing in 12th, but because of the run he's been on lately, you're going, fair play, he's done very well there. We should really be applauding him a lot. You're going, wait, what? No, that's not right.
Yeah. It was a good drive from Herta on a track that we
I
may
can see why
not
that
have.
pains you to say.
We'll admit it that it was a good drive for him, but um, you know, it's about where I put in the notes. I'm like, this is about where I expected him to finish, in P11, and
Yeah, he's another driver you're saying about Pato just now that it's maybe an unfair season to judge him on. I could make the same argument for Herta, but at the same time, I still feel like the last couple of years or so for both of them, there's not been that extra bit of oomph that I've come to expect just from the talk and the hype around them. And yeah, it was an uncharacteristic spin, but at the same time, like we said, with power, it can happen to anyone. We saw that across the board in the weekend. So like, it was a good drive, but it misses the expectations I think we have for these drivers in these top teams, and we're left in this awkward conversation of what do we say about them? Are we happy? Are we not? What do we do? And then thankfully we have Marcus Ericsson to help balance things out because we know we're disappointed in him and we didn't
Yeah.
expect anything different.
Yeah. Well, I think the thing to really look at it, we're at the point of the season now where we've already declared a champion. You're like, okay, well, we have to look further down the standings to see, okay, who's having the seasons that, like, okay, we can improve upon this for next year. And Andretti, I mean, we we seem to give him a lot of shit throughout the season, but Kirkwood and Herta are sitting fifth and sixth in the points right now with
I think
one
that's
race
what
left to go.
confunds us even
And
more.
yeah,
It's
it's
we
like
criticize them so much, and yet somehow they're still there.
still there. I mean, Kirkwood had an amazing first half of the season, racking up 3 wins, and you thought, okay, this is the heir apparent. This is the guy that's gonna knock Pillow
At
off.
least take
And
below on,
yeah, and it just did not pan out that way at all. But he's solidly in fifth place. He's far enough ahead where uh, Herta can't catch him. Now, Herta is in a tie currently in the point standings with Marcus Armstrong. So
That's where it
that's
gets annoying again because you think he should not be a driver that is tying with Marcus Armstrong
right.
in the team that he's in.
It's like,
And so you're
yes,
just getting
it's like,
pulled all over the place.
yeah, it's like, yes, you're in sixth place in the points, but you are tied with Marcus Armstrong at Meyer Shank Racing in a season where Team Penske has been non-performing. So that's three drivers right there that should have been competitive with you that just aren't around you. And uh,
And
you know,
the off season is long. We're going to need it to figure out all of this.
yeah, yeah. And so Ericsson, you know, uh, it's almost like we're on the F1 side of things, with Andretti Global or Cadillac, whoever, whatever they call themselves now. It's almost like Ericsson's just biding his time until he can leave IndyCar and be a reserve driver with that team.
Yeah. I want to be able to disagree, but at the same time, I doubt it. It would be very interesting if the latest rumors are true, and you've got this very interesting F1 team of drivers of Bottas, Perez, and Ericsson. I don't think anyone had that combination specifically in mind when they announced that they would actually be joining the team and go. This feels like some kind of Suicide Squad montage tribute act going on here rather than picking out some A-list drivers. But yeah, Ericsson, they even talked about it over the weekend in commentary with um, contracts and drivers for next year. Contracts being more of a guideline because he is contracted to race for them for next year, but there's always provisions
Right.
to sort that out if need
Yeah.
be. And it would I think I'd be more surprised if he was still there with Andretti Global next year, even though he is contracted for it. I can't see what the benefit of it is at the moment. There's nothing this season. We're talking about, this is their season to judge some drivers on and others. I think this is very fair to base Ericsson on, considering what we know he is capable of. This isn't a case of with Award and Hurtle where, at least for me, I've not seen because it happened before I turned up. It's with Ericsson. He's done stuff while I've been around,
Mhm. Right.
and I've seen the Indy 500 highlight reels and all this sort of thing. And I'm like, where's he gone?
Yeah.
He came from F1, was terrible there. Comes into IndyCar, I was like, yes, this is where he's meant to be. But then this year, I don't know where he is. I don't know if it's actually him in the car, if he's just been replaced with a poor substitute. I don't know what's going on. And I think that could be the fun shock move over the winter break of Dennis Hauger replaces Marcus Ericsson and Andretti Global and go,
Mhm.
sod it, why not? That seems like a fair enough shout with
Yeah.
the season we've had.
And Ericsson, I think he hasn't shown the performance that would make him a candidate for another team in IndyCar.
Mm.
I don't see any team that's going to have an opening that's going to be like Marcus Ericsson's the one that's going to take us over the top. No, he just hasn't had that performance as of late, any this season. Um, you
May
know,
have been the reference that you were making there, but I was also thinking in terms of going over the top. He's the one to lead us into no man's land, and it's not going to go well for us. But if you meant over the top in terms of performances, then yes, definitely not that either.
yeah, and just I think, yeah, I mean, I highly doubt Andretti's going to get rid of him. I just think they're going to shift him back over to the F1 side.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
we're reformatting your contract. That's all.
Yeah. You're still racing for the team. It's just for
Less often, and not in this
three,
series.
three, F1 practices a season and then
When are
sit
you
on the
going to go in the
sidelines.
Indy 500? We'll have another car for that.
Yeah,
Why not?
yeah,
There we
sure.
go.
Chip Ganassi Racing. This was uh, an odd weekend for them, even though I think all three drivers, even Kiffin Simpson included, had decent weekend. Uh, but I think this is the first time in several seasons that we've seen Ganassi get beat on strategy.
Yeah, which is an unusual sentence and not one I think you were
Yeah,
expecting to say at the start of the weekend. I think the key
yeah,
thing here with Simpson and Dixon, just to deal with them quickly, is they both had engine changes, which gave them both nine-place grid penalties. So it's why I'm not mad at Dixon for his qualifying for a change, because he did actually qualify in fifth. So,
yeah,
but he just happened to start in 14th, so I don't mind it as much. And the same with Simpson, he started the race in 26th, but obviously qualified a lot higher up. Um, so it does make the P20 a little bit frustrating, but he still made up 6 spots. I think he's another driver that would be very interesting to dive into the numbers and crunch the data on in the off season to see where he actually falls out in the grand scheme of things. Because I'm not quite sure. Yeah, we've had really good moments from him. We've had really not great moments from him,
yeah.
but I think yeah, it was a bit of an anomaly weekend, and I think Pillow was really happy to have that fight with Rasmussen and for it to be someone different for a change because a lot of the time he's not been able to walk away with it. And we talked about the level of domination. It's not, for example, running off down the road by 20, 30 seconds every race. He does have to fight for his victories, but I think he's not had to fight in this way a lot of the time for it. It's been more strategic in that sense, unless you can immediately slap me down with an example or two where he's had to do something like this season. And I think Thermal Club may be the not maybe the last time, but the only other time that I can immediately think of where he had to go and hunt down people and get past them to take their victory. And this
Yeah.
is now the flip side of that. And you had to play defense and go, oh, that's what that like. I've not
Yeah.
been beaten in this way for a good while. Um, but again, considering he's wrapped everything up already, the team's pretty solid. You're allowed to have an anomaly weekend at this part of the season.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're going to have an anomaly weekend where, things don't fall your way, it's good to have that after you've already wrapped up the championship, right? So,
Stings a little less.
yeah. Yeah. Something that stings pretty hard, though, is AJ Foyt Racing. Good segue there.
Starting with Ferrucci, he is just on a real downward spiral at the moment. I don't
Man,
know if you saw his incident in pit lane in qualifying or practice.
I did not.
Coming out of his pit box, he got way too much spin on the back of the car and slammed into the back of Di Francesco and
Oh,
broke the toe link off the back of his car completely. They had to take it off pit lane and take it back
oh,
into the garage and fix it. And he broke part of his own car in the process. And you just go, what the hell happened there? A couple of commentators like, we've never seen anything like that happen before. He just slammed it
huh.
right into the back and went out. So his weekend didn't get much better from there, really. I mean, qualified 21st, finishes in 14th. Juan Lucas is just flying up there. I mean, that it's such a shame he didn't get that pole position. He really deserved it, but
Yeah.
we've seen this a few times this season that we have this brilliant qualifier from this unexpected driver, and we know that as much as we want them to then do well in the race, it's not probably going to happen.
Yeah. It just, Ferrucci's weekend, just, I mean, the race, especially, this is a track that we would have expected a top five from him.
Hmm.
And it just suits his style or had in the past. And just for whatever reason, and it just wasn't his weekend at all.
I'm
Um,
curious to know how much of it's still any residual stuff from his hand.
It could be. It really could be. Yeah.
It's been
Yeah.
a little while now, but at the same time, I did think it was a bit of a quick turnaround to get him back in the car for such a strenuous race. I think it was
Yeah.
in Portland, maybe. That
Yeah.
was the next one up, and I thought that's. I don't know if you'd want to have an oval for that first, rather than a
Yeah.
lot of twists
Right.
and turns. But either way, I'll be interested to see if that was a factor at all.
Yeah. And of course, with Malukas, he finished eighth after having a brilliant first stint of the race and having to come back from the lap down after his incident on pit road. Um, you know, that could have been like we said earlier, that could have been a lot different race for him had he not had
It's a
the
very big
incident
what
up
if.
there. Yeah, yeah, and one that I'm sure, hopefully, he can put this out of his mind and go into next weekend and really show you know what he should have, what the potential was for this race. I think he can carry over into next weekend. So
Like I said earlier, the silver lining for it for him at least is he knows he didn't make any mistakes
yeah,
on track. It
yeah,
was just one of those things that happened. So if he's kicking himself,
mhm,
he shouldn't be because
yeah,
it's something that you go and talk to the team, you figure it out there, and you find out what went wrong there. And okay, yeah, you probably didn't do everything perfectly on track, but none of that would have impacted in the way that this did. So
mhm,
just you got one more race, put it behind you,
yeah,
go see what you can do.
yeah. Juncos Hollinger Racing, Stingray Rob, I think, was just kind of out there for the day. I mean, started 19th, finished 23rd. He was a lap down, 2 laps down. Yeah, 2 laps down, and just felt like a chicane a lot during the latter half of the race. Um, and then Connor Daly, I mean, that another driver that had an amazing first stint, and obviously, him and Malukas were kind of the two drivers. And I thought, oh, these are the guys that have potential to pick up a maiden victory here. And just something happened, and after that first stint was over, it just felt like his driving style changed. I don't know if he was fighting something in the car, but he just wasn't able to make the moves and be as competitive as he was in that first stint.
The amount of times this year after a race weekend I've seen Connor Daly's posts on social media starting with the sentence, wasn't our weekend this time? And going, buddy, has it been your weekend at all this season?
Yeah, I was gonna say it's been a rough season for you.
But I think with him at least, it's you know that it's there. And like, I want to know what is his course type. It's where we know he can shine. He qualifies in the top 10. He finishes just outside, and it's frustrating, but it's still this glimmers of something. I think Stingray Rob, I remember saying to you after we went to the first oval of the season, wasn't he meant to be good at those? Because I thought that was the team strategy for the year is that we can't do any of the other courses really, but we can do ovals. And then
Yeah,
Stingray Rob couldn't do ovals. Like, mate, did I miss something? What's going on?
yeah.
So I'm not sure what the deal is with him. He has some really cool liveries and some really nice sponsors from the look of it, but that's not enough, unfortunately. And I wouldn't be surprised if he's not back next year. As we're now having those conversations a bit more. I don't know who they would get to replace him. Maybe someone from Indy Next would be worth looking at.
You're thinking
But
Lockie, aren't you?
a little bit, yeah. Again, I'm not. That's a whole other conversation, I think, for another time, because I think a lot of the Indy Next drivers are intriguing, but I don't know if any of them, aside from Dennis, would be worth putting up just yet. Or if they could all do with another year to really separate the men from the boys again, as it were. Um, and Haley Deegan. So it's like there
Oh,
is
yeah,
someone I'm forgetting that. Yeah, there
yeah,
is actually. Um, Maybe Marcus Ericsson. I don't see that being the case of him going there, but
yeah.
I'd be interested to see because that is a spot where I don't know what the argument is for keeping him. And I'm not saying that if they did keep him, it'd be the worst thing in the world, but I'm saying that of all the seats on the grid where there'd be a bit of flexibility, his is one of the ones where I wouldn't be surprised if someone else came in and went, do you need him? or can I come into that instead? And if I'm Jack Harvey, I'm looking at his seat if I can get it. I'm looking at DeFrancesco's seat. A couple of these things. Maybe looking at Jacob Abel's seat and going, at least have the conversation as someone
Yeah.
who is still around, is still relatively fresh, and there's other drivers as well. But you know, there's so we try and keep this short-ish podcast in comparison to what we could do on this conversation alone. That's
We'll
why,
have we'll have plenty of time for these conversations after next weekend.
yeah, yeah. Give me a couple of days, and
Yeah.
we'll have a whole spreadsheet.
Yeah. A whole whiteboard behind you back there. We'll just
You
get you a
know the
laser
meme I'm
pointer.
thinking of. I'll just have all the string and the PowerPoint
That's right.
presentation
Yep.
recordings.
uh, yeah, Meyer Shank Racing. I'm gonna let you take
We've got a
this one over because
differing opinion here.
yeah. Uh, in Marcus Armstrong. Well, Felix Rosenquist. Let's start with him because
Just
it's
an
kind
easy one.
of not much to talk about there. Qualified 25th, finished 22nd, couple laps down. Really
Bad qualifying crash
yeah,
there, I
big
think, wasn't
yeah,
it?
yeah. I don't think this is a track that um, is
Not his
suited for
favorite.
him. Yeah, yeah. But Marcus Armstrong, tell me what you think about Marcus Armstrong. Not necessarily the driver, but strategy for the team.
There was a strategy, first of all, is my question. Um, because I don't think I've ever had all of the commentators in any series be so flummoxed by what on earth was happening there, and the justification of we're just trying something. What exactly are you trying though? Because normally when you say that you know what you're trying, it didn't come across as they knew what they were trying. They were just leaving him out whilst literally everyone else pit. And then in the space of what, less than 2 laps, he went from leading the race to 14th, 15th on the grid and just got swallowed up immediately. And you just assume he just stalled by the way they just went past him in such a
Yeah.
flurry. And okay, admittedly, he started 16th, finished in 10th. So it worked out, I guess, but I feel like that's more just the luck of the draw rather than whatever this so-called strategy was. So please, if you know what they were doing, like, tell me, because
Well,
I have no damn clue.
but before that caution, Armstrong was running in 13th place. You know,
Okay.
didn't have the car that was going to be able to muscle its way to the front. And the team just wanted to try something to see, if there would have been a string of caution flags where we had made back-to-back cautions, and yeah, he would have lost, a few spots. But, if we have 15 laps of caution, now all of a sudden he can come in. He'll be at the end of the lead lap at 18th place, but he will have 15 to 20 lap fresher tires than everybody else. I think it might have been a little early in the race to call a strategy like that, but also keep in mind, even after everybody witnessed this strategy not play out, it's the exact same strategy that Palou and the two remaining Penske drivers did at the end of the race.
And it lost one of them the race.
And exactly. And so everybody saw it didn't work. And then all of a sudden, you had front runners that decided, I'm going to try to make that work.
You've just left me with more questions than answers, I think, so we should
uh,
move on.
but I think it was the right move for the team to try to do something to get one of their drivers to move up. Obviously,
I just wish
Rosenquist
we'd had a bit
was,
more clarity from the team about what it exactly was that they were trying to do, because it just
yeah.
came across as, yeah, we know that you're trying something. That's not the issue. The issue is we don't know what the heck that is.
I think I always like it when a team tries a strategy that's outside the box like that, and uh, it didn't work
So
for
far
him,
outside the
but
box, it was in different postcodes.
yeah, but hey, he got a top 10. He was top 10.
I don't think that was the strategy, but okay.
He would not have gotten the top 10 otherwise, I feel like.
You're just saying that.
So, Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing. And this was kind of a fun race for them. I feel like even with Rahal not, finishing well, he had that great save at the beginning of the race. And, Di Francesco, had a rough start to the weekend, but I think he finished right where I figured he would, but maybe a little bit better than what I
Yeah,
expected from
I
him
don't
on
have
a
too
short
much to
oval.
say here. I don't think from Francesco, yeah, about what you'd expect, I think, which is half a dozen of one, half a dozen of the other. Rahal, we give him a little bit of leeway in this instance, and Foster up a solid 10 positions. And yeah, okay, towards the end of his rookie season now, we want to be maybe seeing a bit more from him, but at the same time, I'm not disappointed either.
Yeah,
I don't really know what to say here. I'm just kind of like
yeah,
you say, everyone's kind of where we expect them to be. And in Rahal's case, it's that sounds harsh, but when you give the context for it, you go, yeah, no, it's all right. We don't we everybody gets one.
yeah. I think I personally have been impressed with Louis Foster this season. And equipment that we know for a fact doesn't perform or underperforms.
Hmm.
Um, I think, he's another driver that I think has shown his potential and is a good candidate to move up to a mid-tier team for next season.
Yeah, yeah. And again, kind of furthers the argument I was putting earlier that it's going to be one, two, or three seats that are more pliable than others. Maybe this is
Yeah,
where someone like him could look.
yeah. Um, now we're at the big boys for the weekend. ECR and Carpenter Racing. I mean, this was a dream weekend for them for sure.
Oh, most definitely. I mean, it's the first time both drivers have finished inside the top five for our team. And I don't mean like these two drivers, although that is also true, but the first time any two drivers for the team in their history have
Right.
finished inside the top five. That's
Yeah.
the scale of it. And starting 12th and ninth, respectively, finishing then fourth and first, you can't really say fairer than that. And I mean, I think we've not had the same kind of talk with them as we've had with was it Meyer Shank maybe in
Mhm.
terms of that's a team where I feel like they're the top midfield team that could transition to being a top team, but ECR they're putting in a lot of investment we've seen
Mhm.
with this new factory and all the rest of it, and I think this is a nice way to reward that vision and to show that there is something there and why they should, why they got their money's worth with Rossi. Why, yeah, he needs a bit more time than maybe we would have liked to get comfortable, but when he's there, and this is
Yeah.
the proof of that. And Rasmussen, he's still very raw, as we said earlier. He's this driver where there is the good, the bad, the ugly, but regardless, you're going to get headlines, you're going to get attention,
Mhm.
and that's good in this era of motorsport. There's no such thing as bad publicity almost. And in this instance, well, it's great publicity because he won the freaking race and beat
Yeah.
Alex Palou.
Yeah.
So anything from Portland is suddenly washed away, and you go, that's a good way to turn your fortune around after one race weekend to the next.
Yeah. Yeah. And just both drivers, I was watching that race, at the end of the race, I so wanted Rossi to get past McLaughlin and be on the podium
It would
and
have been
have
sweet.
both. That would have been really cool to have both those cars on the podium. But regardless, I mean, still a great drive for Rossi. Definitely the best drive that we've seen from him this season. And uh, it would be, I think it'd be a different season if this team could have had a better mid-season. I think, Indianapolis should have been a better. That's a team that's always performed well in Indianapolis, and it just that both those drivers could have been top 10 drivers this season if they'd had a better May.
Yeah, I think that's where the potential comes in that I was talking about, right? It's there, you know it's there. It's just it hasn't it's taken a while to get to it. You've done the geological surveys, you know where it is, but you just had a bit of a trouble
Yeah.
getting to it to really exploit it. Whereas with Meyer Shank, you've been able to see it a bit more. It's not as maybe as big a payload, but it's been easier to get to see more consistently, to bring a steady stream out and to build up. Whereas this, it's kind of more risk, but more reward is coming out of it. And we've just hit a good bit of the reward here. And you go, yeah, that's why we're investing so much into it, so we can get the
Mm.
rest of it out because we could be. a heck of a powerhouse once we find a way to get this out.
Dayle Coyne Racing. Awful quiet weekend for them.
Yeah, not much to say here. I don't think BK a little bit off the pace, but again, another one of these drivers where maybe we expect a bit too much from him in the machinery and from what he's done at earlier points in the
Yeah.
season. So it's this swings around that situation. Abel, it's a shame, I think, because again, I'll be surprised if we see him back next year. At the same time, if he did come back, it feels like it would be, and I mean this in the nicest possible way, a Logan Sargent situation where they're giving him all the time and all the opportunity to develop as a young driver. And if it doesn't work, then that's fine because they're still in a position in IndyCar where it's not going to make or break their team if they only
Mm.
have one driver in the fight. That being said, I wouldn't be surprised either if Jack Harvey or someone came in and just, you're in my seat, buddy,
Well,
get out.
I yeah, I think Abel is probably safe at Dale Coyne, only because and yeah, exactly. It's money. Yeah, Dad's paid for a big chunk of that team, and it's been no secret that his dad has wanted to have an IndyCar team. And if he can't have an IndyCar team, at least he could be heavily invested in one. And
It'd be interesting to see with the charter system if there'd be any kind of leeway to get a third entry for the team and go, okay, you want an IndyCar team in that respect. You
mm,
buy the tender or whatever to have, we'll
yeah,
happily have him alongside as a third driver, but you've got to pay it and make it happen so that
yeah,
we can have another driver that can actually
yeah.
contribute a little bit more.
But then also keep in mind, I mean, Dale Coyne is one of the least funded teams in the series. And so,
Well, I
uh,
mean, with these reality bombs at me formats,
yeah, yeah. The fact that they only have one paid driver is uh, a bit of an anomaly. I think both cars could potentially be a paid driver.
I'll circle it back then. And instead of Stephen Colbert joining Rahal and Lanigan, he's going to join Dale Coyne. There's going to
There
be a
we go.
rival late night TV show host funding two IndyCar teams and battling it out that way.
There we go. Finally, we got PREMA Racing. I think this is another weekend that they're going to want to forget.
Yep. Uh, yeah, car go boom and car not go very much further up the grid, I think is the only way to
Yeah,
really talk
yeah,
about it. Unfortunately, it seems to be coming full circle for them this year, which does not bode well for Nashville.
right. Yeah, I mean, rookie of the year race is still on between, Schwartzman and Foster, but Foster does have a lead right now by
I'll be
8
surprised if it
points.
switches.
Yeah, I would be surprised if it switches as well. So, hopefully they can have a decent outing next weekend and have something to hopefully cap what's been a lackluster season. Others, short of a Indy 500 pole, it hasn't been much to report from this team this year.
It can be a short report card when we get to that postseason.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, hot, not, and hard luck. Who was your hot driver team
I
this
had to give it
weekend?
to the whole team. It had to be ECR for this weekend.
Hmm.
Yeah, everything just worked so
Yeah,
very, very
I'm
nicely
the
for
exact
him. It would have
same.
felt
Yeah,
mean to just signal Christian Rasmussen out because it wouldn't have worked if they all hadn't been
yeah,
absolutely on it. So yeah,
yeah,
I'm glad we're in agreement there. I don't mind we
yeah,
chose the same one.
yeah. And not often that we pick the same for the hot.
No,
Usually
no,
we try to be a little bit more diplomatic, and I see, oh, you chose who I was going to choose. I'm going to choose somebody else this weekend. Yeah, I couldn't do it.
it's just a feel good story. It's what
It's a,
motorsport's for.
it
That's why we
really
like
is.
it.
Who is your not hot for the weekend?
Marcus Ericsson. I mean, it's been a few rounds, so it felt right to bring him back into the fold on this section. But man, get out the seat.
For me, it was Juncos Hollinger. I mean,
Yeah,
that both of those drivers, especially Connor Daly, should have had a much better day than what he did. It just Connor looked great that first stint, and just something happened, and the light switch got turned off, and he was non-performer the rest of the day. And Stingray Rum, actually, I expected a little bit more from him as well on a track like this, and just wasn't there at all. Um, yeah, not much to say all there's there, but hard luck. I got to go with David Malukas.
Yeah,
Just
damn pit stops.
yeah, that pit stop. I mean, like we said earlier, this would have been a much different race for him. And in general, had they had a better stop.
I would love to see if there's a freeze frame moment where, no, I doubt it because of the angles, but it'd be great if you'd have Malukas in the foreground, Power parked in the background, and the caption being the two guys fighting out for the Team Penske seat, and then back even further on the track, you just see Rasmussen. There's a third option. It's like this
Yes.
guy's literally running rings around a pair of you.
So who's your hard luck for the weekend?
Oh yeah, willpower. Just because, like
Yeah.
I say, it's one of those instances it could have happened to anyone. It's just it is hard luck that it happened to you at this
Yep.
particular
At this
venue
particular
at
moment.
this time of life.
It does say something that, these two drivers, not only are they kind of battling for a seat at Penske, one's, trying to move up, one's trying to stay there, and they both get our hard luck award
Yeah,
for the
it's
weekend.
again incredibly poetic, and I do
Yeah.
enjoy that.
Yeah. Well, a bit of news from Indy Next. Dennis Hauger has locked up the Indy Next Championship, but we had a first-time winner in that series as well this weekend.
Yes, Dayle just took him at the end of the first lap, I think, and then just
Yeah,
didn't let it go for the other 89. And Dennis
yeah,
was thinking, well, to be fair, I don't need to do much else here. I should probably just stay in position and get on with it. I mean, he stayed close,
yeah.
but didn't need to do anything else. And yeah, never really in doubt, I don't think. And Kyle had a terrible weekend and kind of was it was very passive reward in his I'm coming back, and then no, I'm not,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna be maybe second, hopefully. So yeah, Dennis, I'm very happy with that, and I love the rebound that he's had this year after such a tricky Formula Two campaign, off the back
Mhm.
of such a dominant F3 campaign. He's such a fun story to watch. So I'll be very interested to see which team in IndyCar he lands with next year. Because if he's not with any of them, there's going to be a kerfuffle. Because I'm going to fly over and go, what the hell, people? Why is he not on the team?
Yeah, yeah. I I don't foresee a scenario where he isn't an IndyCar next season. But it certainly, I, I feel like wherever he lands is not where we will speculate he lands.
I'm not going to be happy with that.
I think it's going to come as a surprise. I don't know what that surprise is going to be,
Team Penske.
but yeah, 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 that strange things will happen in the silly season. So, we did receive word this week that Humpy Wheeler passed away at age 86, and a lot of newer fans probably don't know who he is. I'm sure when you saw this name in the show notes, you were not aware of this
Well,
gentleman. So,
after I saw a few different posts, I was like, I'm going to have to go read about this guy because it seemed like a big deal. So I'm going to go and learn the history for today.
yeah, yeah, longtime NASCAR and IndyCar promoter. Obviously, was president of Charlotte Motor Speedway for a long time until 2012, I think was when he retired. And yeah, he was the he paved the way for people like uh, uh, our IndyCar president now, Doug Bowles, and that real energetic face and voice of the series. And
Hmm.
uh, would have loved to have seen him more with NASCAR. I mean, it's been a good long time since he had been promoting IndyCar races, but uh, sad to hear of his passing. But we'll be back next week with our season finale, our wrap up in Nashville.
It's flown by, and yet it's been an incredibly long time.
Yes, it feels like it's the season felt like a long season, but only in the fact that it's like we're waiting for Alex Palou to win another race. And that's just what we were waiting for at race end every weekend. It felt. So with Nashville, we're going back to the oval again this year. As much as IndyCar hyped up the street course in Nashville finale, and then it got taken away from us. a beautiful course. And then like, well, we got to go back to the oval. Well, last year gave us a great race, and
Frustrating race.
yeah, and with Colton Herta winning. Uh, but you have to remember, we were in Nashville back in the 2000s era, and we went 15 years without being in Nashville on the oval. But the 3 years prior to them leaving Nashville, Scott Dixon won back to back to back races on that oval. So definitely do not count him out for this
I
race
never
next
count
weekend.
him out. It's a shame that he isn't able to take the fight to Pato for second place in the standings, because you look at the standings and we were looking at Colton and a couple of other people and going, how the heck are you there considering the season you've had? And Scott Dixon's just somehow in third, and you go, you're a sneaky man.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
I would, I know it's already too much to ask, but I would love him to be up there for championship contention next year, just because to do it at that age
Yep.
against someone like Pillow, and if a few other people get in the mix, I don't care if he wins by a point, as long as he would, pull it off. Oh,
Yeah.
that'd be great. And if he could give us a tease of that in Nashville, and just
Mhm.
kind of, I think,
Carry it
what is it?
on.
Yeah, kind of carry on that kind of a tease of what we can do next year, and with Pelot still trying to look to equal some records for most wins in the season, for Scott Dixon to maybe deny him, that would be quite a nice little setup
Yeah.
for next year.
For next year. Yeah. And one other name to watch out for is Louis Foster. He won the Indy Next race here last year.
That would
So
also be a heck of a way to wrap up the season with another
now
new
I'm
win.
not I'm not saying that his efforts with his team at Indy Next last year translate over to success at Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan, but uh,
Stranger things have happened.
he obviously knows how to wheel around that track. So it'd be a fun one to watch. Well, everything's locked up. And, when you're going through the points, I mean, there's not very many battles left. We talked about Colton Herta and Marcus Armstrong tied for sixth and seventh. That's going to be a storyline to watch. Will Power is only 5 points behind those two, and then Felix Rosenquist is only a point behind Will Power. So in that, fifth or sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth place, that's where we're going to see the fun, I think, this weekend.
I'm rooting for Will Power just because he needs the help he can get, and I'll leave the podcast with this one. I think Will Power goes to Andretti, Dennis Hauger goes to Team Penske, and we figure out the rest from there.
That is a bold prediction. I'm going to wait for my prediction, put a little thought into it. Uh,
Are you saying I've not thought about this that I just came up with 5 seconds ago?
I think he just came up with it 5 seconds ago. So, but no, it's going to be a great weekend. We'll be back next week to cover all the action and start wrapping up the season. We'll see everybody then.